All right, hello, we are live. Um, okay. All right, so last week I did episodes 1 and 2 of If I Were King, and there were a few hiccups, especially in the second episode, because my original goal was to have every adjustment on the website happen in real time. Like everything I do, any change I make, any laws I add, I would type up while I'm going live, and every episode of this podcast would be live. I realized that it's hard to type everything up in the moment, and what I changed it to as of now is I'll make changes when I'm not live because I could do a ton. I mean, it even took all week to make the changes I made, but I'm going to make the colors of the changes different. Here, let me just pull this up. Present, share, Fire King. All right, let me make sure this is showing up. StreamYard, Fire King. Oh, you know what? That one. Okay, I think I pulled up the wrong one. Let's see. Remove. Desktop screen. Share screen. Okay, there we go. Let's see. All right. Okay. So I have this little note. So here's the website. The link actually, it's the link. See, always going to be hiccups. Let me go get the link, copy. Real quick, I'm just going to add the link to the description really quick of the video. At least on the one on the Carson Hughes channel. And next time I'll make sure to have it on both in advance. Oh, it's already in there. Ha! Okay. That's right. Okay, so it is on both. Okay. Well, I'm glad I went to do it and found out I already did it. All right, sounds good. So now I'm going to go to current laws. Okay, here we go. So basically, I made a bunch of changes. You can go to the website and see. Anything that is red or green are changes. So nothing has been removed or added unless it's red or green. So I will do all of that on the live episodes. Okay, so red is additions made after the last episode. So if you're ever looking at this and something's red, that means whatever the last episode of the podcast was, all the red stuff is added stuff that will be officially on there. And then green is things to delete on the next live stream. So last live stream I did, I had a note for a law that said known unwanted physical touch. And then as I was making changes and adjustments, I decided to label it as physical harm. And then in parentheses, I put including known unwanted physical contact. So I'll adjust little like words like that, like touch versus contact. And yeah, so and then now on the stream, I will delete the green one. And then I will explain everything I have here before I turn it to the white font. So killing I had already had listed before, and then as I just listed the change of the physical harm, I also added a section that says details after each law, which has a link. So you click on it and then it opens up the details of that law. And then I also added enslavement. So the three like main first laws are what's outlawed is killing, physical harm, including unwanted physical contact, and enslavement. And so I'm going to turn all these white font. All right. And I plan on having a few guests on today to discuss some of these topics. And so while I'm doing this editing, if somebody shows up and I don't notice it, it might be a second. Then I'll click over and check it out. Okay, and then I'll notice things like I think a lot of these laws I have bolded. That one I don't, but the bold barely changes it. So, anyways, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so. And then when you click on details, what it's going to do is it's going to take you to the details of the killing law. So I click on that. And so before on that main page where it didn't have the link, it had notes like excludes self-defense, excludes well-regulated assisted suicide. And so that's why those here are still in white font, because that was already written just on a different page. And so I moved the details over to here. And then so this is the killing page. It says caveats to this law. And so killing is illegal in my land, but I say it excludes actions. Sorry, not excludes, includes. It includes actions toward all living born humans for the entire lifespan. Sorry, for the entire span of their lives. So I'm basically just noting here that the abortion topic is in a different section. It's in the section about minors, and then it says excludes. Let's see, but also this one's including minors that just aren't preborn minors. So anyways, I'll be adjusting as I go, but I'm just writing what seems to be the best in the moment as I go. Okay, excludes actions of self-defense and defense of others. Last time I had self-defense on there by itself, but I think it's important that if somebody is harming somebody else, somebody's like about to shoot some people, if you have a concealed carry weapon and you pull it out and shoot a person that's like threatening other people's lives, then that's a perfectly justified killing. So that's a big part of what I'm going to be doing here is as I go, I'll be adding different things. Somebody can point out, what about this? And I'll go, oh, good point, and add it. Or I'll disagree and not add it. Okay, it says excludes unintentional actions. So it won't include all of them because you can still get in trouble for unintentional stuff. Like if you're out in the woods shooting a gun, but you're doing it irresponsibly and somebody else out in the woods gets shot with that gun. Though there might still be some consequences, but it's just saying that it's not necessarily illegal to have someone have died from an accident, and I'll break that down further as I go because I don't even know exactly how I'm going to break that down. And then excludes well-regulated assisted suicide, and I don't know exactly how I'm going to adjust that, but that's going to have a lot of detail. There's going to be some complicated elements there, but I am in favor of many and maybe even most cases of assisted suicide. Okay, so all the ones that were read, that was new stuff that I typed up not on the last episode, so I'm turning it to white right now. And then, okay, so that one's all changed up. Okay, so now I go back here. Physical harm was the next one. I'm just going to read these out really quick, and then we'll move on to the video reactions. Okay, so physical harm, including unwanted physical touch. Caveat to this law includes actions toward all living born humans for the entire span of their lives. Excludes actions of self-defense and defense of others. So this is some elements of this are similar to the killing one, but there's a few differences because it's just referring to physical harm. Excludes unintentional actions. Excludes wanted actions. Now, that one's similar to the assisted suicide one, but the assisted suicide one's going to have to be well regulated. It'll have to be like through government organizations where just saying that somebody wanted to die if you kill them, like that won't slide. But it might slide when it comes to physical harm. Like if two friends decide they want to fight for fun, do like a fight club type thing, and then they're fighting each other. I don't know what the details will have to include because anybody could be in a fight and be the aggressor in the fight, the starter of the fight. And then later they can claim, oh, we decided to fight on purpose, and then the other person will disagree. So there might have to be elements of proof that it was wanted, but there are definitely cases that could involve wanted physical harm. Some people want something like that in the bedroom, and that shouldn't be illegal if it's wanted, but it might be a sticky mess as far as proof and whatnot. Okay. Elements of this law are different for children and persons in need of guardianship. And so I don't know exactly. This is going to be a complicated one. I'm looking forward to having people on both sides of the aisle on this come on and talk. So the reason I pointed out is because when it comes to just strangers, like adults, I think you shouldn't even be able to tap somebody on the shoulder that doesn't want it. You just can't physically touch somebody that doesn't want it. But if you have a child and you need to get your child to go from one place to another place and they won't move and they're throwing a tantrum, you might have to grab their arm and kind of drag them along a little bit. You might, there's various different, you might have to pick them up and carry them outside of a store. There's just different things when it comes to unwanted physical contact and whatnot that might happen with a child or somebody that you're a guardian of, like somebody that's not a child but maybe has special needs and lives in your care or whatever. And so, but that'll be interesting because I know there's some people that are very pro like spanking and punishments like that are physical, and some people that are very anti. And I'm curious to hear the different arguments. I think it could be interesting to look into some studies on this podcast and read them and then share my thoughts on them. But I'm pretty torn on it. I lean towards mostly being not in favor of too much in the way of that kind of thing, but little bits seem reasonable. So anyways, okay, the next one on here, the caveats to the physical harm law. Elements of this law are different for persons who need to be arrested or restrained by law enforcement. So in the same sense that you basically like the parent to a child thing. If somebody is breaking the law and they need to be restrained, then there's going to be some physical contact, unwanted physical contact, and maybe unwanted physical harm. Okay. And then down here, I have notes in the green. So this is what I had written last week was shoulder tapping comes with first warning. Second offense jail time. So I just slightly reworded it. Shoulder tapping, first offense equals warning. Second offense equals jail time. And I talked to a friend about that, and I might be slightly adjusting that. I'm not exactly sure the approach I want to go, but for now, I feel fine with this. I feel like there's almost no case where something can be caught on camera where somebody taps a friend on the shoulder or something like that, and then the friend says, I don't want you to touch me on the shoulder. Like, seriously, do not do it again. And there might be some cases, which my friend convinced me of, that if they don't think they're serious or something, there might be a second or a third tap on the shoulder, but there will become a point, and it will be pretty early on, that it'll be like you step away and you're saying like, seriously, do not do it again. And if that person does it again, it should be some form of illegal. I don't know, like a lot of things should or shouldn't be illegal, or their punishments might be based on how full a prison is or a jail is. And, various different things like that, whether the illegal side of it is just that there's probation or a fine or whatever. But anyways, I feel good about that now, and I'd be curious to hear other takes. Okay, so now that I deleted the green one and I read off all the red ones, I'm just going to change the font on these. Okay, and then we'll go back to here. I'm going to glance real quick to see if anybody is chatting in the stream. Okay, and so then the last one on this section was enslavement. Let's see. Okay, enslavement. Caveats to this law includes actions toward all living born humans for the entire span of their lives. Elements of this law are different for children and persons in need of guardianship, and elements of this law are different for persons who need to be arrested or restrained by law enforcement. So basically, depending on how we're going to define enslavement, essentially children are slaves of their parents, as far as the idea of owning and getting to make decisions for, and children not being able to leave. Now, obviously, if there was a bad home, then the government would remove the child. But as far as a good home and whatnot, it seems pretty identical. So it was worth caveating. And same thing, definitely with jail. You do something illegal, you go to jail, you go to prison. I feel like that must happen, but also that is a form of enslavement, but it's just enslavement with good reason. So anyways, that's that. Highlight. Okay. Okay, before I go to the next ones, I'm going to click over to a couple things. I'm going to go to the About section. So here I have a link to the YouTube channel. You can click there, and if somebody clicked there right now, they would see the link to this live. And then, but also just to my channel. That goes to the Carson Hughes channel. I have two, so it goes to that one. Okay, and then there's just a quick little statement that says, this project is the building of a hypothetical society from scratch. On this website, I will list my stances on everything related to the legal system. If I have missed something or you have an argument you would like to share with me, you can join me on my live stream podcast, If I Were King, or you can just email me. My mind is always open. Change my mind. Carson Hughes, contact carsonhughes85@gmail.com. So if somebody wants, anybody can join the live stream. Obviously, at some point, like if there's too many people on there, I won't be able to add them all in. But I'll try to. Anybody that wants to, I'll try to fit them in whenever there's time. But some people don't want to do something like that, but they are interested in the project, and they can just shoot me an email, and my email is there. Okay, so that was red because I had added that since the last episode. Turning it white now. Done. Okay, and then podcast episodes. So this will have all previous episodes, but right now it says up here, full episodes of If I Were King will be on this page soon. For now, it's just clips in order of release with the most recent at the top. Okay, I'm going to turn that white real quick. But yeah, very soon, probably in a couple days, this will just be previous episodes. And then there might be a different section for clips. Okay, so back to current laws. Okay, let me check something real quick. Okay, Lewis is in the chat here. I think enslavement entails that it's unjustified. So there's perhaps no good reason to think justified imprisonment is enslavement. Yeah, maybe here. Let me okay, enslavement definition, and different dictionaries have different definitions. Okay, so enslavement definition would be the action of making someone a slave. So let me go to slave definition. Now this is on. Is this Google or Yahoo? Oh, this is on Yahoo. I don't know which. Let me check. I am curious. This might be Merriam-Webster. Oxford. Okay. Yahoo does the same as Google, which uses Oxford. Okay. So enslavement. Meant to make a slave out of somebody. So then slave definition, a person who is forced to work for and obey another and is considered to be their property, an enslaved person. Let's see. Yeah, so that's complicated. Like if somebody has a child, and I can't remember if Lewis was commenting on the child and the prison or just the prison element, but either way, they're your property. I think that's accurate. Just it sounds funny, but I think it's accurate. It's your property. It's your property you could lose because the property is capable of having immoral actions done to it and suffering and pain and that kind of thing. But it's still your property as long as you don't do an action that's against the law. And then forced to work. I mean, that's not a necessity, but I mean, in most cases, like children will have chores and whatnot, and they don't have any choice. They have to and obey another. So yeah, I think that fits. And then same thing with prisoners. I think they aren't free to leave, so they become a property of the government for the duration they're there. Forced to work. Now that's complicated. I don't mind figuring out if they should be forced to work. Forced to obey. Yeah, they have to walk out of a cell or into the cell whenever. So yeah, I don't know. It might be fine to remove it. I'm gonna leave it for now, but I'm gonna think about it, and I'll definitely love to hear arguments and whatnot for it. Imprisonment is not property making, though. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah. Part of the reason I put it is because you'll hear people call it that. Like people will talk about, or let's say there's an argument talking about too many black people in prison or something. They'll talk about how they were enslaved and they're still enslaved because they're put in here to do these actions or whatever. Not that a claim like that has to be accurate or whatever. It seems close enough that it's worth putting, but yeah, I don't know. Okay. And then Honest Doubter says, and what about debt slaves? Those who are tied to financial system designed to exploit them. Okay, I see. So he's saying, like, if I'm going to call this one, then I might as well call a few different things slaves. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to ponder that one. I feel like this one's more set because with the debt slaves, you're limited on your abilities of what you can do. With the parenthood one and the prison one, it's pretty much fair game. You'll have your limitations about the harm itself, but if somebody is in debt, yeah, I don't know, because if you owe money to certain things, you could end up getting in legal trouble in a sense of like fines, and then if you don't pay the fines, and eventually you can get jail time. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna ponder that. I'm not ready to take it off yet, but I'm gonna ponder it for sure. Okay, let me pull up the next one. Okay. And then, so last week I had abortion, circumcision, genital transformation surgery, and breast reduction surgery. I already had those, but I added a note because this section says outlawed actions towards minors. And I put a note for the circumcision and the genital and the breast one that it's for cosmetic purposes that it's outlawed. For medical purposes, it wouldn't be. The abortion one is not connected to that. And so that one just says after 8 weeks gestation. I added the word gestation. And then they each had the details button. So let me turn all this to the white font real quick. And then we'll check out those pages. Okay, so for abortion, it says no abortions with the intention of killing a fetus are allowed after 8 weeks gestation. I added the intention of killing a fetus because oftentimes the word abortion, not oftentimes, but I think by definition, it just refers to removing a fetus. And so it'll include stuff like if the fetus is fully dead, then removing it is an abortion. But I'm using like more of a colloquial term when I put it in here, which I might need to adjust. For the most part, when people debate abortion and talk about abortion being right or wrong, they're not referring to somebody removing something that's dead. They're not referring to a handful of these different ideas. So abortion, when talked about, is almost always being referred to as if it's okay to kill that unborn human. And So anyways, I put that. And then under notes, and this is very important to me, I put, I'm convinced enough to allow abortions at any time before 8 weeks gestation, but this isn't a firm stance. I find there to be good arguments for and against abortion at most stages of pregnancy. So it was really important that I put that detail because it's a pretty important topic, and it's a big deal to a lot of people. And somebody might look at it and go like, oh, you just feel strongly this way or strongly that way. I think if abortion should be illegal in a lot of cases, then I think one of the worst things that happens probably in our society is people being forced to give birth. And if abortions are legal, then I think one of the worst things in our society are people being allowed to kill unborn humans. So it's such a horrible situation because I think bodily autonomy is very important. I think people should have the choice to do whatever they want. Like I feel like if one of my children needed a kidney, I'd give it to them. And I would personally find it immoral if a parent didn't, but I don't think anybody should be obligated to like give their kidney to somebody. And so an example I often use is that if I was walking down the street and there was somebody on the street dying, and the only thing I had to do to save their life was pluck out one beard hair, I don't think I should legally have to. Like, I don't owe that person that beard hair. Morally, whatever, but I'm just like, legally I don't have to. But I do think there is good legal reason to not be able to kill an unborn human. But it's complicated, and I hope to have many good conversations on the topic. Okay, so that's the abortion one. The next one down was circumcision. But let me check comments real quick. Daniel says the phrase property is theft comes to mind. I don't know what you're referring to. Like, I know people say like taxation is theft, but property is theft. Is the idea that if you own like a piece of land, that land shouldn't belong to anybody. We like all own it together type thing. I'd be curious to hear more of what you mean by that. Honest Doubter says when a bird feeds the stronger chick and lets the weak one starve to be kicked out of the nest, is that abortion? Interesting. When a wolf has a litter of too many and kills one, is that abortion? Yeah. I don't have a strong stance on, like, I don't think most animals are capable of moral choices. But in a sense, maybe these are moral choices, because when I talk about abortion, I usually point out that there are many cases where it would be perfectly fine. In an ideal society that has certain capabilities, I think it's not morally acceptable at all. But if I was on an island and there was 100 babies and I could take care of only 15 of them, let's say I could bring 15 of them to become, to grow up and be perfectly fine. But if I tried to feed all of them, then they would all suffer and die at some point because I only have enough to really take care of 15. If I had 85 little droplets of poison that would just quickly kill off a baby, I would pick 85 at random out of those 100 and put the droplets in the babies. And because I know that would be the more moral choice. I would be in a situation where it's necessary. So humans throughout all of history have had situations like this, where somebody being born deformed enough in a tribe of people that had to travel all the time, or, various different things, like various different mental disabilities where their actions could lead to people finding them in their hiding spots and killing them and that kind of thing. So I think there are many actions just like these ones explained about the bird and the wolves. And so it really just comes down to advancements and capabilities, I think. But I would love to talk to people about it. I want to be convinced. I think there's plenty of good arguments in there, and there's probably plenty I have not heard. Even the other day, Lewis probably gave me the best pro-choice argument I've ever heard in my life, and I'm still contemplating it. Okay, let me go. Okay, circumcision. No circumcisions for cosmetic purposes are allowed before adulthood. Now, I might need to reword this because what I mean for cosmetic purposes is that there is no current immediate danger that leads to the need of the surgery being done. And so the idea of doing it to prevent future harms, I am not referring to that at all. So I might need to make a note of that. And I'll make a note right now. Okay. Okay. And so yeah, this is only referring to like if there was like an infection and the doctor looks and says like the best thing to do right now is to remove this. And not because it's so normalized that it can be removed, but because even in a world where nobody does it at birth, that's the best thing to do, similar to a car wreck where a 5-year-old gets their arm smushed in such a bad way that the best thing to do is to amputate it. It'd be a situation like that where it'd be an action that we wouldn't think of as a good thing to do, but it's a good thing in that situation. Okay, and then I have a thing here that's I was toying with this idea of making notes in each of these pages of when it was last updated, because then as months and years go by of this project, somebody could see if there have been any changes in a while in one area and think that one might be worth talking about more, but I'm not sure. So I put last updated 4/25/2024. That was 2 days ago when I updated this. So I don't know if I'm going to keep doing that, but that's a thing I did. Okay, let me see if there's any comments on that real quick before I go on. Nope. Okay. Okay, genital transformation surgery. No genital transformation surgery for cosmetic purposes are allowed before adulthood. I need to make a section. I'm going to make a note on this notepad about adulthood when I'm going to consider adults in the society. I mean, I likely will just call it 18. 18 does seem like a good number. Let me turn this to this. Okay. Yep, there we go. Okay, I think that speaks for itself. Okay, and then this one says, no breast reduction surgery for cosmetic purposes are allowed before adulthood. Now, this one is complicated, and I love to talk to people about it and hear their takes on it. Because, okay, so some people get breast reduction surgery because their breasts are too large and it's hurting their back. I don't know. I think even though a lot of things would come down to what the medical consensus is, I think we can still all come to personal agreement on what those things are, and we can learn about it. We don't have time to learn about everything, but I want to try. So anyways, the idea that somebody's like truly, if they had a reduction surgery versus if they didn't and went on another year, if we could like show a likelihood of what their spine would do, and we see like the impact on their future, there being like a horrible impact based on the spine, whereas removing breast tissue, assuming that there's not much of an issue there, like if just removing some tissue enough to make the spine fine isn't going to affect like future breastfeeding and stuff like that, or even if it is, the spine's probably more a bigger issue, then I would say that seems reasonable to do. It's just like the car wreck one and any other where it's like medically necessary. Whereas something, and I worded it the reduction way because I didn't want to put something like top surgery or whatever. So the idea of feeling that certain aged individuals could decide that for transgender reasons they want to remove their entire breasts, and it's just for that reason, not for like a spine reason, then as of now I haven't been convinced that anybody under adulthood should choose that. Similar to like choosing a tattoo or whatever, you might be perfectly passionate about a certain thing, but having something medically done, having a surgery done. But this is very complicated. The quickest counter argument I could see would be something like how do we view norms in society? If somebody gets in a car wreck and their face gets all mangled up, and then if they were to just heal, they would heal however they heal, and they would be as healthy as they possibly could be after the car wreck. So having surgery to change their face to make it look more normal, like a normal human face, is just for cosmetic reasons. But would we let a child do that? And I think we would. And so it does become complicated. I don't want to ignore any possible good arguments. So, but as of now, I'm saying no to this one, but likely yes to the face one. So, anyways, definitely a topic I would like to talk to others about. Okay. Let me check something real quick. Okay. So I'm almost caught up on all these. Okay. So, outlawed, I had said actions involving police interactions, but I changed it to interactions with police because I didn't need actions and interactions in there. So delete. And I also I kind of just wrote down the ideas of running from cops and vehicles, fleeing after orders, resisting arrest. And I changed all of that to just fleeing / resisting arrest. And so I can delete those two. And then I had property damage and medical bill, and I changed it just to property damage during interaction. I left out the medical bill thing, but that'll be an important part. I'll probably add that later. I'm going to make a note of it real quick. Medical. Okay. And then I had driving with suspended license. I changed that to operating vehicle with suspended license. So I'm deleting this one. And then I had lying to police, and I kept that the exact same title. And then there's the details on all of these. So I'm going to that one too. Okay, let's turn all these white. Okay. And then just so anyone knows, or everyone knows, or what, after I'm done going through and changing all these, I'm going to be doing reactions to police interaction videos. And then I have 2 guests coming on a little later today. This talk will probably go till about 10:30 a.m. PST. And the talks, I think, are both going to be a bit later today. Okay, so we got fleeing. Okay, so last week I had a punishment based partly on speed and duration and high risk of danger to others, at least 1 week in jail, up to 8 years in jail. I adjusted that slightly. I didn't adjust it too much, but I wrote fleeing and resisting should be punishable as a deterrent to encourage citizens to cooperate with officers. So I'm recognizing that the fleeing and the resisting itself, those ideas, they're not like physically harmful to anyone, but it's important in a society to listen to law enforcement, and that's the if everybody listened to law enforcement, then it'd be a better place. We'd have the laws enforced better. So not listening should be illegal just in and of itself, and that is specifically as a deterrent. I can't think of any other reason. So it's getting in trouble for that will make others in the future more likely to cooperate because they will recognize they don't want to get in trouble for that. Okay, and then I put both actions, so fleeing and resisting, should also be punishable due to the added risk of harm they present to the officers. So if you're running and then an officer has to run after you, there's instant added risk. If you run across the street, they run across the street, there's the added risk of them getting hit by a car. The running at all, there's a risk of tripping and falling and hitting your face on the cement. And this thing would happen, even if it's a clumsy officer, it's only happening because you're resisting, and you're resisting a lawful order, and the lawful order should be thought of as good. Even to the criminal, they might think like, I want to get away with this in the moment, but they don't want to live in a society that doesn't have these laws, that they benefit everyone. So Anyways, okay, so that was the first note I had on here. And then I had fleeing in a vehicle should have an added punishment based partly on breaking the speed limit, the duration of the chase, and the and the level of higher risk of danger to others. And so basically, if you're fleeing from an officer and you're speeding while doing it, and you're speeding for a while doing it, but there's no cars around whatsoever, there's still that risk that a car could show up, so that adds an element. But whatever that punishment is would be slightly less than if you're speeding, the duration's the same amount, but you're weaving in and out of a whole bunch of cars, and there's just all kinds of people, like men, women, children, all kinds of people just driving on the street. They are following the law, and you are risking hitting them and causing death and all kinds of things. It would be a slightly different punishment. Okay, and then so I put ranging from 1 week in jail to 8 years in jail. Now, I almost put 10 years, and it seemed excessive, so I bumped it down to 8. But I mean, it's basically the idea that the worst of the worst case of doing this without there being a negative outcome could lead to 8 years because of the risk one took. So somebody speeding, like going 150 miles an hour, speeding in and out of cars and going past hundreds of cars, and a chase going on for however many hours. And there'll be a handful of other issues that are discussed elsewhere. But just doing those things and risking that many lives by speeding and whatnot, I don't think the 8 years is too harsh of a punishment for the worst of the worst in this situation. But I could probably be convinced that it is. I mean, that's a huge chunk of somebody's life. If somebody is like 20, they get out when they're 28. But I mean, it's a pretty big risk. Okay, let me see. I'm just curious. Okay, let me see. Obeying local authority is one thing. Tying that authority to XYZ agency, government, or persons is a separate thing. Who or what should be the authority we obey? Well, I would say that the police, so law enforcement officers, we just have this basic idea. We know what the police are, and they are the authority we listen to. They are keeping the peace. They are acting within the law that we have given down by our lawmakers. But yeah, that'd be interesting to go over, and we're going to talk later. That's one of my guests that will be coming on around 10 a.m. And I think that could be an element worth talking about for sure. Okay, next one. Okay, property damage. Let's see. Okay. I had just made a note before that said cost owed by perpetrator, so I'm going to delete that because I made a better note. Any cost to repair private or public property damage that happens based on the actions of a perpetrator during an attempt to arrest, and damage caused, let's see. The cost to repair private or private property. I'm gonna change it to damages. And damages caused by any action of officers deemed reasonable during an attempt to arrest will be owed by the perpetrator. So yeah, if somebody's fleeing from the police and they hop a fence, but they break the fence, or if the police officer hops the fence to go after them and the officer breaks the fence, any cases like that where it's the perpetrator or the officers trying to arrest them, if there's any damages caused, then the perpetrator pays for that. That seems clear to me, but if somebody were to think that damages caused by the officers shouldn't be paid by the perpetrators, I would love to hear that argument. Okay, so I adjusted that. Next, Okay. Operating vehicle with suspended license. First offense in extended suspension. Second offense jail time. I didn't really change anything to that, but I just made this new page, and so the title was red because I really want to make sure that all my changes are announced each talk. Okay, and this just says lying to police. So lying to police is illegal. The outcome of that, I don't know what that's going to be. But I'm just going to make that note. Lying to police is illegal. Okay, we're almost done here. Okay, now we're down to outlawed actions by police. Illegal commands and searching trash cans on private property without a warrant. And then I have the details added. So I'm going to change this font. And then after this, we only have one more law added. Okay, so illegal commands. Some of these things are kind of obvious in a sense, but I'm adding them whenever it's discussed. So if I'm watching a police interaction video and somebody in the live stream chat points out that it should, and this is what happened. Somebody said that it should be illegal for them to give illegal commands. And I said, yep. And then I made a note of it, and now I'm adding it here. And so, yeah, there we go. Okay, so officers should receive warnings and punishments for illegal commands. That's what I had written last week. And so I'm going to delete that part because I added more detail. The more detail is officers should know their legal abilities while enforcing the law. If they give unlawful commands, in some cases, they should receive warnings, and in some cases, they should receive punishments, including potential job termination. And so, if an officer didn't know the detail of when it's acceptable to ask for ID, if their command is, you must show me your ID right now, and if the law, which I don't know how I feel about this exactly, but if the law said you can only ask for ID with a certain probable cause, and there's like a range of what's probable cause, and let's say this doesn't fall under it, but that officer for some reason thought they were able to ask for ID whenever, then if this happened and they're caught on their body cam footage demanding ID, saying they'll be arrested if they don't give the ID, then I think likely that officer should just be told, nope, you can't do that. You can only ask for ID in this case or whatever, and they get that warning. And then if they're caught again on camera doing it, then they're either fired or they get such a severe demotion or whatever. Now, I don't know if like a year goes by and somebody forgets some kind of small detail, how many like warnings there should be over a certain amount of time. But if there's just blatant illegal commands, especially depending on how harmful that command becomes. And so anyways, there's that. Okay, and then the other one, let me check something real quick. So your ideal society from scratch requires armed police employed by a central government. Yes, that's correct. And I'm looking forward to our talk later because it sounds like maybe you don't agree with that, and so that'll be an interesting talk because I think that's necessary. I don't think a desirable society could function any other way. I think there must be a set of laws that benefit everyone, like essentially the closest thing to everyone, which I think these initial 3 laws do. The no killing, no physical harm, and no enslavement, and having those laws in place, and having law enforcement that enforces those laws, that seems like a must. But yeah, I'm curious. We'll talk about that when you come on here. I mean, we can keep talking about it through the chat here too, but when you come on, we'll talk about that as well. Okay, so this trash can one's interesting. So this was brought up on maybe it was the second episode. I watched a police interaction video. There's a trash can that you'd normally put on the side of the road. The garbage man comes and gets it or whatever. But it was next to the house, and before getting a warrant, the officers opened the trash can and saw there were like purses and wallets and stuff in there. So I'm glad they were able to have elements of proving criminal activity or whatever. But the question is, when it comes to the Fourth Amendment and searches and seizures, which we'll get into amendments on here as well, or not amendments, but just the Constitution in general. And I'll create my own Constitution for this project. Anyway, so the question comes up of, should this be illegal to search without a warrant? And somebody shared that in 1988, I think it was. Oh yeah, I made a note here. Blah. The note here, I'll read this out of order. So the note here says, this was a topic the Supreme Court decided in 1988, and I'll likely read through that majority opinion and write up a response. And so I haven't done that yet. But they, in some way or another, and I don't know the exact details, they deemed it that somebody is not reasonable to consider even their own trash private property. And I want to read all the detail because I think I've talked to a couple people about this, and I think I pretty strongly disagree with this. So what I wrote for the law is trash cans on private property are viewed the same as other private property. A warrant must be obtained before a search. And so I agree that if you set your can off the curb onto public property, where you have a system set up where a trash can comes and takes your trash, once you set it out there, you're calling it not your trash. Now, it doesn't mean anybody can necessarily do anything they want with it. If somebody knocks it over intentionally and spreads out all the garbage, the police should be called. But the crime they did, for one, they're damaging your property of your reusable can. And for two, they're littering. They're taking this garbage that belongs to nobody now. I would say it, in a sense, belongs to actually nobody, but they are taking it and they are putting it all over the ground where they can't be doing that. And so they're not, I don't think the owner of the house and the owner of the trash can should be able to sue or anything like that because they scattered their private property. I really do think that once the contents inside of a trash can, once it's on the curb, I think become nobody's property. But when it's next to your house, I think it is. I think it's your property. And so if anybody ever wants to debate that, they should come on. Okay. We only have one left. But real quick, I'm just going to glance. Okay, yeah. All right, so the last one here is outlawed action towards animals. I had just written maybe and likely, and I'm going to delete that because I wrote up what it's going to be. The details is red because that was added since the last episode. I'm going to turn that white. Select. Okay, that's done. So owning animals. So I'm going to open this detail, and then we're going to watch some police interaction videos in a sec. Okay, owning animals. No citizen can own, and I wrote this morning, so there might be some mistakes in here. No citizen can own a non-human animal or confine one to their property. So yeah, this is essentially just like nobody can think of a non-human animal as property of any kind. They can't think of it as theirs. They do not own it. You can't buy it, any of that kind of stuff. Can't sell it, can't buy it. And then also you can't confine it to your property. So if you find an animal outside and it's like wounded or something and you want to help it out, I think it's fine to have like temporary situation of helping out, in the same sense that if you find like a hurt child on the street and you pick them up and take them into your house and call the authorities, that's not kidnapping. But if you take them into your house and you don't call the authorities and you nurse the human or the non-human animal back to health and you keep it in your house, I'm going to say that as of now, I don't think that's acceptable. But I did make a note here, not just because this law might come across as wild to people, but truly because I mean the note. I wrote, I feel good enough about the idea of this law to make it a law on the website, but I imagine I can be convinced to adjust it. I'm sure there are reasonable ideas for certain types of farming of animals for food and of keeping rescue animals. but I'll need to hear those. Okay. All right, there we go. That's it. That is the full website updated. And I made a couple notes today, and those will probably get added to this, to the website. And until they do, yeah. And then I'm going to be talking to a few people later, and I'll add stuff. And I'm also about to watch some police interaction videos, and this will probably lead me to adding stuff. Okay, let's see. Daniel, let's see. Okay. Daniel says, I mean, I would say an ideal society would have no need of law enforcement. All people would understand well the golden rule, divine law, law of karma, e.g., we are our own police, so to speak. Yeah, but I think there's a huge problem with this. Well, for one, the idea of karma, like if somebody does something wrong, then something bad's going to happen to them, or if somebody does something right, something good's going to happen to them. Not everybody believes that, and it's fine to believe that. I don't, yeah, anyways, I don't believe in anything like that, but it's all right. If there were a bunch of people, just like 1 million people living in one area, and they all respected and loved each other, and there were nothing was done that anybody would view as something that should be illegal, that's great. That's awesome. But even in that world, where the possibility of doing something that we would deem worth locking up or making illegal, like right now, I don't know how often there are like rapes in the U.S., but it's probably more than one a day. So if we were able to get it down to 1 a year, that would be amazing. The one wouldn't be great for the one, but having there be like figuring it out how to get it down to 1 from whatever it is would be great. And so in the same sense, this perfect place that you might be talking about where there's no need for law enforcement, if everything's perfect, but then the only problem you have is 1 rape, you still would have the need for the law enforcement. So like, it's not even an idea you could work towards. I don't think you could work towards an idea of having a society where you wouldn't need laws. It would just be that you would have a society where there's empty prisons and the laws are still on the books and the officers still exist. You could, you would have fewer of them. If there was 0 crimes, then you would have like, 10 police officers for every state or something like that. And then you would only hire more if new crimes appeared. But it's just like a fire station. If all of a sudden we don't have fires anymore, we should still probably have the fire station for the potential fires. So I don't know. Again, I'd gladly be convinced, but I am not convinced yet. Okay, so I'm switching over now to doing some police interaction. Let's see. Why is that? Okay. There we go. Okay. I'm going to, okay, hold on. Sorry, one sec. I went to oldest on this, but I'm actually going to go to the latest, and I'm going to do, this is a channel called Police Activity, and they usually don't have any commentary. They'll just show something that happened, and then people can decide how they feel about it. But I'm going to open this up.
Hey, let me see. Hey! Up on the scene, police! Yeah, drop the gun! Drop the gun!
Impact.
Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
All right. Interesting. You know, it's hard to really see exactly what was going on. Um, but yeah, unless there was some reason to believe that the person didn't have a gun, it makes sense that they fired. It seemed like the first shot, when a guy said, one of the officers said impact and shot something, it seemed like it might have been like a beanbag shot or something, which is interesting. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that approach. It would just come down to if it has positive or negative effects. If you shoot a bean gun bag thing and it hits somebody and knocks them down and their gun falls out of their hand and you can arrest them without them dying, I think that's ideal. But if people started using those beanbag things and then because of shooting that, it made the other person shoot first, then if there ended up being a lot of like officer deaths or injuries, then maybe that would be best to not do. So it would just really come down to the stats and the outcomes. I would say in general, if somebody has a gun, well, definitely if somebody has a gun and gets, I'm going to make a note of gun demand. If somebody is told drop the gun and they have a gun, I don't know how many seconds, but it really shouldn't be many. If you're like, we're talking 3 full seconds at most that somebody should have to wait before shooting somebody with a gun after being told to drop the gun. Now, I don't even know if there's a police situation and somebody has a gun. Yeah, I think there probably needs to be a command if nobody seems to be in danger in the moment. But it depends on if they're pointing as well. If somebody just has a gun and they're holding it, it's pretty different than if they're pointing it in the direction of the officers. At this point, I'm going to say that there needs to be a command, though. So, yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one. Do, 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 do.
I don't know how easy this is. But once you go in, I'm not going to go away from a concentrated holding the shield, creating space if someone else could go in and out.
Hey, Derek. We want you to get hurt. Your PO wants to talk to you. You have to understand, if I have to break down the store and you get physical with us, we're gonna have to charge you. What's that? You're already getting charged. All you have, man, is you missed the court hearing. That's all you did is you missed the court hearing. What's that? Okay, so you have to understand everything that's going to happen from now on. You don't want to hear that? We're done talking? Okay, so be it.
There's something on it.
Okay, hit me right there.
You okay?
Whatever it was, there's all that weight.
A light. He's got some kind of weapon.
He's got a bad.
bat?
Yeah, he does.
This subject's got a bat in his hand.
This is the beauty.
No, he's up here fighting. We need to kick it to create space. They have like cages.
I think it's like off the hinge, the top hinge.
I got a less than weight there. Yeah.
What side would you want to try with?
The hinge?
Probably that.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back a sec. All right, that one's interesting. It's different. Again, like every weapon's different. Different weapons will call for different things. If somebody has a gun from 20 feet away, shooting that person that refuses to drop the gun makes sense because they can shoot from that far away. Now, a bat from 20 feet away, you could throw a bat and maybe hit somebody, but the likelihood of damage and death just isn't that likely from far away. But from close up, it can be really bad. So, yeah, I mean, I would say if you have already told somebody what they need to do and they do not listen, they were told to open the door, they were, told each various different thing, and then when you go in and you go to get them and they have a bat and they're swinging, if you got hit really hard in the head with a bat, you could be dead, but you could also just have brain damage. There's so many different things that nobody should have to risk. Yeah, I don't know what the details would be, but I would say threatening with a bat or swinging a bat would call for a lethal reaction. I think if he was just shot there and killed, even though it was just a bat, I think it's fine, but I could be wrong. If anybody disagrees, let me know. I'm going to make a note of that. All right. Okay, next one. Okay.
Hello. Can I help you? Hello. Yes. We have a restraining order for my ex-boyfriend, and he's right here in the front.
What's
my mom's
the
house.
address?
17 West 59th Street.
17 West 59th Street. Is this a
One
house?
side, yeah. One
Is
side.
this a house
It's a
or
house.
apartment?
It's a house.
Where is he at right now?
He's in front of my house.
In front? And
Yes.
Okay, and you have a restraining order against him?
Yes. You know, all he says is bullshit. Okay? It's all
One
lies.
second. 1 second. Don't talk to him.
They said not to talk to him.
1 second. I'm talking to the officers. Don't hang up. I'm going to have more questions for you, okay?
Okay.
Done.
Hey! Hey! You're gonna get hurt! You don't fucking stop! Hey! Come here! Come here! Hey! Come here! Come here! Hey! You're gonna get tased! You're gonna get tased! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Stay by, stay by, stay by! Stay by! Turn around! Turn around! Yeah, I got it, hold on. Turn around, turn around! Turn around! Bro, turn around! Turn around! Hold on, hold on. I'm gonna shock him again, I'm gonna shock him. Stand by, stand by. Stand by. Yeah. Hey, stop! Stop! Get on the fucking ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Come on!
So I'm supposed to like believe, man, fuck that, nigga.
On the ambulance.
You guys are assholes, nigga.
Hey, yeah, how was that?
You guys are assholes, nigga. Like, look, brother. I'm just trying, look. I'm just trying to get up.
Easier if you just listen to what we're saying.
I am. Can I just get up and stand on my feet, por favor? Por favor?
No. You showed that standing on your feet, you're gonna try to run or fight.
What the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, brother, please, please, can you just fucking assign me?
What?
Can you just please fucking assign me? Like, you guys are fucking.
Doesn't work like that. I don't care how.
All right. So just a few comments. I think, okay, so the first thing was that he had a restraining order and he was in the yard. Restraining orders, I think, are a certain distance. So if he was just at all, just being there, and whether he is doing anything else illegal, I don't know. I haven't really thought about this much before. I think you should at least get like 1 day in jail. Because different restraining orders would be for different reasons, and some would be more likely to have a bigger fear of like an outcome. But yeah, I'd say maybe somewhere from like 1 to 7 days. Okay. And then the fleeing from officers is definitely no good. Watching the chase, it's interesting. It reminds me of how important it probably is for officers to be in good shape. Sometimes you'll see like overweight officers, and if an overweight officer is the one there that should be chasing the other person and they can't keep up with them, and then the person gets away, like it has such a big impact on our safety. And so I think there should, it's hard to have a profession where you can discriminate based on size, but I really think that's one that probably should. And it really just comes down to the idea of what are you capable of doing? Like, should you have to be able to do a certain amount of like push-ups and pull-ups and running a certain distance? And if somebody can't do that, they can't do that. It's fine. It's like not everybody needs to do every job. And so, yeah, anyways, I just think that's interesting. Yeah, this is another case where the running from the police causes or adds an element of risk of the officers. If the officer running around the corner to chase him got hit by a car or something, that's his fault because he did something illegal. He didn't listen to the command, and then he's causing this possible risk of harm to others. And so I think that should play a big role on where if he just like was caught and listened and the restraining order led to him going to jail for 1 to 7 days, that is what it is. But I would say something like this, where you're running and making them chase after you, adding that extra risk, that's another 1 to 7 days, maybe more. I don't know.
How many times you say please? Or
Man,
like that, okay? Chill out.
I'm trying to go back.
Chill
Nah,
out.
I'll go back to the relax. I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about. I mean, hey, tripping, dog. What the fuck is this about?
Tasers.
Man, hey, look, brother. What is this shit about?
Look, hey, look.
sir? The paramedics, we're gonna take you on over to the hospital, okay?
For the hospital for what?
Just to get you checked out.
I'm alright.
You got
I'm
tased.
telling you, if I'm fucking telling you I'm alright, like,
we gotta take you.
you
just to
fucking
get you-
tased the dog shit out of me, but still I'm
No, I didn't do
alright.
anything. We're just gonna take you to the doctor, okay?
Why you guys make me want to go to the hospital?
Sit back.
For what reason? Hold on, I don't need no hospital.
You have to go.
We gotta check out your heart and everything. Just sit
I'm
back.
good. Brother, I'm telling you, I'm good.
Yeah, this is interesting. I don't have a firm stance on it. I think I probably lean towards what's being done. But if somebody were to say that they don't want to go to the hospital, they don't need to, should that just be on them? Once they say it, it's caught on body cam, it's on them? Or should, in some cases, they be forced to? Because somebody could get like a brain injury and not be thinking stuff through. Some people can claim they were coerced to say they don't need help. It's probably necessary. I don't know cost-wise if it's the most efficient. Like if there should be like how schools have like nurses at a school, you could have nurse or doctor at a jail. But I guess this is a way to remove any possible corruption. If somebody wants to give certain favorable or non-favorable treatments to certain prisoners, I guess the bigger concern would be the non-favorable. In the jail, you can't really have that element where if separate people take you to a hospital, it's just, gosh, so many tax dollars for something that might not be necessary. I don't know. I'd be curious to hear the thoughts of others. I don't. He's restrained, so anything I'm commenting on probably won't come up in the rest of this. So I'm gonna go to the next one. All right. This one is not wanting to open up. All right. Weird. Maybe we'll come back to that one. All right. Whoops. I accidentally skipped to the end. I meant to do the full screen. Oh, I actually watched this one the other day. A friend sent it to me. It's a very complicated issue. I'm very interested to hear the thoughts of others on this one.
David 06. I'm right outside. I see two males from the window just yelling. Yeah. David 06, you can keep it open for now. It's just, I'll let you down. It's gonna be an elderly man and a younger whoever. Both look Asian. Right.
Austin Police Department, open the door.
Hey, he's gotta go! Go, 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 go!
All right, and so the rest of the video is just from the other angle of the body cam, and yeah, oh, man, this one's tricky because in one sense they knocked on the door and said police department before any shooting happened, and so with that announcement, it's tough because okay, so here's one angle. Not that this is a problem that probably ever happens, but if they were part of some kind of like gang or something, or let's say they weren't part of a gang, but for whatever reason, people from some type of a gang or mafia or something wanted to do something involving them, and they were impersonating police officers, knocked on the door and said police. So the knock on the door and saying police is only meaningful in the sense that the police are there. But as far as what somebody should believe or not, it's kind of complicated. Okay, so that's one element of it. Another element of it is if you give somebody a command and they have a weapon and they could your life is at risk as an officer or others around you are at risk, then shooting them makes sense. But if somebody hasn't been given a command and if they're in their own house, they're in their own house, you can have a gun in your own house. It's not illegal to have a gun. Then, gosh, it gets complicated because the guy shooting, I don't think it'd be fair to assume for him to assume that the guy he shot was going to harm the person in the house. The gun came out after the knock on the door. But if he's concerned the officers are going to get shot, it makes sense to get the gun out. But if he hasn't done a crime, he just has a gun out, then maybe he shouldn't be able to shoot. But then if he doesn't shoot and the officers at the door get shot, then that's a problem. So anyways, it's complicated. After talking with my friend Lewis for a while, I lean towards calling this a bad shooting. I lean towards this like I don't think it's a malicious shooting. I don't think the officer should get in like big trouble, but I do think that it was an unjustified shooting, and I think it's an unjustified shooting that makes sense. I don't know what the outcome should be exactly, but I do find it fine to declare that I think it was unjustified. Okay, in the comments here, there can be situations where both parties are justified. Yeah. And it's definitely complicated. I made a note about it, and in the website I will adjust it, but I think I'm going to call it unjustified. I want to talk to somebody and find cases where it would be justified to shoot somebody in their own property, and then maybe make notes of a range of that. Okay, so that's it for that one. I think somebody's going to join in on the live stream here in a second, but I'll just keep watching these until that happens. All right, that one's not opening up. Let's see if this one will open up. Man, what is happening with these? Some of these are just not wanting to open. Most of them are opening. Let's do, there we go. Maybe? Okay, understand, proceed.
There you go. It's your time in Seattle. Gun. Shots fired. Shots fired. Suspect down. Help the officer. There you go. It's your time in Seattle. Gun. Shots fired, suspect down.
Okay, this is interesting. Okay, so I actually watched, I'm guessing the rest of this is just from different angles. I mean, yeah, there can't really be more to it, at least involving him. I was so confused before because they're coming out of a room and he's in the hallway. But then I figured out what it is. So the title says, child predator fatally shot after pulling gun on cops at hotel in Seattle. So I'm guessing this was a setup where, like adults online that are looking to meet up with kids or whatever, there'll be like what is it called, a sting operation, whatever it is, where the police officer impersonates somebody to see if somebody's going to meet up to do this thing. And so I'm guessing they're in this hotel room where the guy outside thought he was meeting up with somebody that he was talking to online. And so they were there to arrest him because the person, when they were impersonating somebody online, they were probably saying something like, oh yeah, I'm 15, meet me here, whatever. What's strange is that he had a gun. So that means not only was he meeting up with, I don't know the details, but like potentially like a 15 or 16-year-old or something like that, but that he had a gun. I wonder if he knew it was cops and it was like almost like a suicide thing, or if he was just has the gun and he wasn't going to use it. If it was like if he was truly meeting up with whoever he wanted to meet up with, or is he like a serial killer or something that like wanted to kill somebody and have that be part of what he's doing? That's pretty wild. Okay, but as far as critiquing what's being done here, it seems like it was approached and handled pretty well. As the gun's coming out, the guy was able to put his hand on it. I mean, this is intense. Like a lot of people, regular people on the street have a hard time intervening when they just like see somebody being beat up or whatever. So to intervene in a way of seeing a gun and that not frightening you, to like have you actually put your hand on it, that's pretty wild. But it is a good move, a smart move. Hopefully he was trained to do that and others are trained to do that. But that's pretty intense. And then as they pulled back, a couple different people shot, and they shot a lot. I think a lot of people view something like that as excessive shooting, like that. Once you shoot them once, they're dead or whatever, or a couple shots are fine, but that was like 10. I think what people don't think about is, for one, so the main thing to think about here is that the person has a gun, so that person can kill any of the officers there, and none of these officers want to die. So being justified to shoot is important to think about. So you're justified to shoot, and when you're shooting, you are shooting to kill, because if you don't kill, you could be killed. And if you could shoot somebody once and they could die, but maybe they also could maybe not die. Also, maybe you could miss the shot. Now, you shouldn't take a shot where your miss could hit a fellow officer or a civilian or anything, but it doesn't mean that every shot you do is going to land. It just means that you have to not take a risk to make it accidentally land on someone else. So as long as you're good to go in that area, you fire as many firings as you need to feel that you aren't going to be killed. And so somebody could be hit like 5 times, and they'll probably die no matter what. They'll bleed out eventually, or if you hit certain organs or whatever, there's no coming back from that. But it doesn't mean, like, there are plenty of people that probably have been shot 5 times and they still are capable of holding their gun up and shooting and doing something bad. So I don't personally have any concern with like excessive shooting in a case like this. If somebody does, they should come on and chat with me about it. But this seemed like a perfectly reasonable shooting. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's see.
Amigo. No, amigo. Aquí. Any pistoles?
No pistol.
Drogas?
No. ¿Drogas? No drogas. Solo venimos a comprar unas papitas, pero como estaba calentando mi carro. Estaba calentando mi carro. Come here, my man.
Where?
33.
Manos arriba!
No. What?
We got these two with a 33 in the car. Manos arriba! Manos arriba! Yeah, go ahead. Manos arriba. Manos arriba.
What?
Manos arriba. Put your hands up. Manos arriba. Manos arriba. Manos arriba. Stop. Stop. $58 shots fired. Shots fired. Manos arriba. Manos arriba. Put your hands up. Put your hands up. Put your hands up. Put your hands up. Here you go.
Suspect hit.
I don't know. I can't tell. Manos arriba. Manos arriba.
All right, Spencer, let's back up and let's get a shield.
All right. So yeah, this is I don't speak Spanish. I don't know exactly what they were saying, but they could see a person reaching for a gun, and they shot. Yep, seems pretty justified. If you are, I feel like if you are involved in an interaction with the police. Now, it's complicated when you already have like a weapon of sorts. Then it's figuring out how much time to give somebody to drop that weapon before it's reasonable to shoot. But if somebody picks up a weapon, especially one to that level, a gun, if they pick up a gun while they're already interacting with you, I think it's just perfectly fine to shoot. Now, there might be ways where somebody can take that risk. I don't know. Well, there's potential ways where somebody can take more of a risk and not shoot and try to figure out a way to restrain the person without killing them. But then it comes down to, is there a moral issue with taking more of a risk? If you take more of a risk for yourself, but it's also putting others at risk, if you don't shoot somebody that has a gun and because you're willing to take that risk, but then they fire and they kill some like civilians because you didn't take them out when there was that threat, then there might be a bigger issue where because that was your job to do, you would be punished because you played a role in the civilian being killed. So yeah, I would say if a gun is pulled out during an interaction with an officer, that they should shoot to kill. Okay. Let me see. Okay, sorry. Next one. It says audio begins in 13, 12, 11. Oh, did a cop?
Yo, we're gonna be on our set. Down here, let me go check it out. Hey, put your fucking hands up! Hey! Get out of the car, Casillas. Put your hands up! This is 136. I know we're gonna be taking a 245 suspect on a PO. We're gonna be on our set. Down here, let me go check it out. Put your hands up! Put your hands up! Hey, put your hands up! Hey, he's got a knife in his hand. Hey! Hey! Drop the gun! Drop the knife! Hey, drop the Hey, you guys good? Drop the knife! Hey, drop the knife! Hey, drop the knife! Hey! Drop the knife, bro! Drop the knife! Hey, 1033 to the patch, 1033 to the patch. Hey, put your hands up in the air.
Yeah, another clear case. Wow, it makes you wonder like what kind of drugs he's on, or if he's just like insanely drunk, or is it a suicide thing? If he's just thinking like, I hate my life, I'm going to get in so much more trouble because of this thing I just did. I've already been in jail. I don't want to go back. If I charge at them with a knife, they'll kill me, and then I can be put out of my misery. That's the only thing I can imagine. But anyways, that part doesn't matter. But for the legal side of things, because people are always talking about if the police, if there's too much police brutality or if police are doing the wrong things. And I'd say this is a clear case. Like somebody might say, oh, you should get a taser out, or you should have done this or that. There could be techniques for planning for things in advance, but when something is taking place, like the 5 seconds it takes to get from in his car to an officer with a knife, no, I mean, if you're being told to put the knife down and you don't put it down, if you don't put it down and you don't move and you're a certain distance away, I would say it could be worth taking a little bit more time, hoping that he'll eventually listen or that you can use a different tactic. But the second he takes an inch towards charging towards one of them or another person, gotta take him out. You gotta take him out. So I think they did well here. All right. And then Asher, if you're still watching, I know that you were going to hop on and we were going to chat at 10, but if you're free now and want to hop on and chat, that'd be good. But you don't need to. 10 is still fine. Okay. I'm curious if any of these will be ones. I mean, so far there was that one that I disagreed with the shot shooting through the window, and I'm kind of torn on that one. But I wonder how many I'll come across where I disagree with, where I think the officers did something wrong.
Drop the knife! Drop the knife! Drop the knife!
Put the knife down.
Give us 1033.
Put it down.
Put it down! Put it down! Put it down! Oh, great. Shots fired. 18 by police. Stay down. Stay down.
Hang on.
Stay down. Atlantic and Bellot. We're right by the railroad tracks. Stay down. Stay down. Roll over on your back. I'm sorry. Roll over on your stomach. Roll over on your stomach.
Delta 314, you're in the middle of Atlantic Boulevard.
Roll on your stomach. Put your hands out by your side.
Bring your other hand out.
You got rescue beat 1051, 1068. Hey. What you want to do? You want me to handcuff?
Yes.
All right. Hey, stop! Put your hands behind your back.
I got it.
All right. And I think the rest will just be from a different angle. Yeah, again, another clear one. The guy has a knife. He's being told, put it down. You have every opportunity to put it down, or at least to stay where you're at, or flee. Now, at some point, fleeing with a knife, you should, you'll have to be shot, but not right away. But running toward people or officers, yeah. Just making a note real quick. Okay. Now an important detail in case somebody isn't thinking it through and they're thinking like he's already been shot a couple times. Now it's kind of weird how like a shooting and a death here would be reasonable. It'd be fine. But something about the person not dying, it's just like you can picture the pain they're going through, and it's just such a bummer. Sorry, mine just blanked. Oh yeah. What I was gonna say was the handcuffing thing. Somebody might think like, oh, he's listening. His hands are out. He's been shot and tased, and so just let the ambulance get there and help him. Don't put him in handcuffs. But what you're missing out on is anytime you do this, you're running this risk of this person could have another weapon. They could hurt another person. They're already a person that was willing to charge at officers with a knife. So you can't risk that with other officers or with paramedics or anything like that. And so even though he's shot and he could die, could be bleeding, whatever, you can't take that risk. But even when they said to put your hands out and he put one hand out, but the other one looked like it was kind of tucked in by his shoulder, and that was a pretty scary moment. I wouldn't have been surprised if they would have shot him then too. Now he's already shot and on the ground, but again, the people's lives that matter here are the officers in this specific situation, because this person is doing something illegal, doing something that we shouldn't want in a society. We shouldn't want a society with anybody that doesn't listen to law enforcement, but we definitely shouldn't want a society where somebody is going to take a weapon like a knife and charge at anybody, but especially at law enforcement. And so, I don't want this person to die. I'm hoping they can get help. I'm hoping they can be a good member of society at some point. But these officers, not only are they officers, so that's a good thing, but they're also people that just didn't do anything wrong. And so if he's even just possibly reaching for a weapon and refusing to have his hand out, and he's reaching in to grab a gun to point and shoot and even hit the foot of an officer, it's worth taking him out. You give the command. If they don't listen to the command and there's reason to assume that they could harm, you just have to do it. And If I'm wrong, I hope somebody convinced me. Okay, I got to run and do something really quick, and then I'll be right back. And I'm going to have a guest on to talk about some stuff on the website. All right, I'm back. All right, I think I have time to do one more reaction video, and then a guest will be hopping on here. I'm going to try to get this one to play one more time. Aha. I think I got it.
Whoa. Yeah, it's kind of slow. All right, there's another one. Oh, that one went. Yeah, that one was slow. Well, that's good enough.
Zeph, it's the LAPD. That was us. I need you to wake up, follow my directions, and surrender now. Do so now. Zeph Rocco in apartment 3. This is the LAPD. Come out with your hands up and surrender peacefully.
Hey, Zeph. Hey, this is Sergeant Hong with the LAPD SWAT team. I need you to come out with your hands up and do so now. We have a search warrant for your location. We've been waiting, and our patience is growing thin, so I need you to come out right now and surrender immediately.
The message, or is he there?
He's right here. Hey, 70, I got him on the line. He just hung up.
Get back inside. He's got a gun. Don't reach for it. Don't reach for it. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Stop reaching for it. Stop reaching for it.
Oh, probably must have been on the other side.
Hey, he's climbing down. He's climbing down. Hey. Hey, get back inside. Get back inside. He's got a gun.
Gosh, how high up?
Don't reach
was he?
for it. Don't
Let me see
reach
if
for it. Let it
different
go.
angle.
Hey, he's climbing down. He's climbing down. Hey. Hey, get back inside.
He's on the balcony right now.
Get back
He just
inside.
jumped off the balcony. He's
got a gun.
He's in dog park. He's got a gun.
I'm just skipping to the different angles.
What time ago?
His arms behind his back. You want him on his side, Ed? Yeah, let's roll him on his side. Let's just cuff him in the front.
Whew, that was wild. Yeah. Yeah, another clear-cut case. Jumps out a window with a gun. He reaches for the gun. He gets shot. That's what has to happen. And it might seem kind of strange to handcuff him. He is probably dead right at that point, but you can't know. You can't know for sure. You could hit somebody 10 times and miss all vital organs, and they're faking that they're dead or whatever. It's just not worth the risk. I think you just have to have a protocol, and the protocol would be something like, if somebody is doing the actions that should lead them to getting shot and killed, then you keep treating them that way until everything's in the clear. So yeah. Let's see.
We don't want to hurt you, and we don't want to get hurt.
No, you want to hurt me.
Don't be stupid, and you won't get
fucking hurt me, bro. If you
Simple
didn't,
directions.
You would have asked me to fucking leave lawfully. You wouldn't be over here trying to thump in your fucking chest. So you clearly want to hurt me. So fucking that's what it's gonna be, man. I'm in fear for my life. I'm literally.
We had the right to one taser already. We've already had the right to pepper spray.
Shit.
We could have done this.
No, you don't. You literally don't have the right to fucking be here harassing me.
Aggressive right now.
Fuck you guys, man.
Stop reaching in your pockets. Get your hand out of your pockets. Take your hand out of your
Fuck you
pocket.
guys. Out of your pockets. You're
Stop
not getting my
reaching in your
fucking dog,
pockets.
man. And I'm not going to fucking jail.
You're making us concerned for our safety. Stop reaching in your pocket.
I'm not being arrested.
I'll be right
You're
there.
gonna have to kill me today and fucking send you.
We don't want to kill you. We don't want to hurt you or your
No,
dog.
that's what it's gonna be. Y'all are fucking
We don't want
tyrants. You guys are fucking tyrants, man.
So listen carefully. This young lady is going to take control of your dog.
No, fuck she not.
If you batter her, that's an extra
She's
charge.
not taking fucking control of my fucking dog.
It's very simple.
Fuck you guys, man.
Hand out of your pocket.
Fuck you guys.
Hand out of your pocket.
Hands out of your pocket.
Hand out of your pocket right now.
Shoot me then. You're not getting my fucking dog, man. I've committed no fucking crime.
Hand out of your pocket.
It's not happening.
Hand out of your pockets. Let me get a supervisor 51.
No, you already tried to illegally detain.
Hands out of your pocket, sir.
Not happening.
Take your hands out of your pocket.
I do not feel safe.
Take your hands out of your
I've
pocket.
committed no fucking crime.
Taser! Taser! Taser!
Please stop. Please stop.
Hands out of your
I've committed
pocket.
no crime.
Hands out of your
Please stop.
pocket.
Please stop. I've committed
Get
no
him on the
crime.
front.
Taser! Taser!
Stop. I've committed no crime. Ow, motherfucker, that hurts.
Say your hands out of your pocket.
No.
Hold it down. Hands out of your pocket.
I've committed no crime. Please get a supervisor.
Get on the ground. Hands out of your pocket.
I've committed no crime. Please stop.
Hands out of your pocket and get on the ground. Get on the ground.
On the ground.
Hands out of your pockets and get on the ground.
Stop.
Get on the ground.
I've committed no crime. Please stop. I just want a supervisor.
Get on the ground. I get hit? Something to hit me.
Get out of the way, Carl.
I'm out of the way. Give me a second.
What? I couldn't see where that.
How did I get hit?
Man shoots Hillsborough County deputy while being tased. Huh. I couldn't see that, but I mean, maybe from a different angle it would have been better. But yeah, I mean, if that is the case, I'm guessing since the title is that, like, that was officially confirmed the case, and that'd be hard to fake. But anyways, let's just say we knew for sure that was the case. This is a perfect example of why there will be some cases where you have to shoot where somebody thinks that you shouldn't have to shoot. Somebody's just like, they'll say, oh, just his hand's in his pocket. That's not a big deal. No. Officer tells you to take your hand out of your pocket, you take your hand out of your pocket. It's the same thing like if you're fighting an officer. If you're going to fist fight an officer, then the person fist fighting the officer has a gun. They do, because they have the officer's gun. If they're willing to fight an officer, that means that if they overpower them, they take their gun. And so same thing would be the case where if somebody could potentially have a gun on themselves, so outside of the idea of being completely naked or something, your gun could be in a pocket or tucked into your pants or whatever. If you are being talked to by the police and you are hiding your hands in areas where there could be a gun, officers should assume there's a gun. Now, I'm not saying in every case like this it'd be best just to shoot the second they don't listen to the pocket thing, because that might just end up being like a large number of people every year being shot, possibly to death, that didn't have a gun on them. But I don't know what the alternative is. If doing this, now this person, the officer that got shot, seems like he'll probably be fine. I mean, it's not good to be shot, but he's not going to be dead or anything. But if not shooting people in situations like this ends up leading to like 100, 200, whatever officers dying every year, then it's probably better to shoot more civilians that are willing to do this than let the officers go down. And I don't know, it's kind of complicated because, I mean, you have to be in a pretty severe wild mental state to be able to make this choice. And I don't think just because somebody has some severe mental issues that they should be shot or anything. But if we don't have a way to keep them off the street, like if we don't deem somebody worthy to be in like a mental hospital, but they're on the street doing these actions, I don't want them to die. I want something to get figured out, but I don't want it to get figured out at the expense of the officer's life or other civilians that wouldn't do things like this, that are being perfectly good. So, yeah.
Step out with your hands up. Trevor, drop it! Drop it! Hold on, drop it!
Drop it! Drop it now!
Let me
Drop
see your
the gun
hands. Step back
now!
with the gun.
Drop it!
Don't move!
Don't move! Don't move!
Don't move!
Don't move!
Get him! I got him. Go ahead. Trevor. Step out with your hands up.
Oh, I went to start over, but yeah. So the title is Harris County Deputies Fire at Man Pointing BB Gun. I'm guessing they didn't know that it was a BB gun. From a distance, you could see a gun, but not necessarily a BB gun. Yeah, that's pretty wild. It seemed like by the end, like he didn't get hit or anything. But yeah, if you're pointing a gun and you are told to drop it and you don't, you get shot at. Oh, I didn't notice. Okay, one sec. Hello.
Carson, howdy.
Hey, I didn't notice you were there. Sorry. Hopefully
No,
you weren't there
I
for long.
just got there. You're good.
Okay. Usually there's a beep sound and then I can go to it, but I almost hit play on another video, so you would have been stuck there for like 5 minutes.
I'm glad.
Okay. So much to talk about. There's so many routes we could go. I'm going to let you take whatever route you want to. But I don't know if you wanted to talk about anything that we talked about in the chat here earlier or whatever route you want to take, but the floor is yours.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we need to start at the beginning, Carson. I think you say this is an ideal society, right? You say this is from scratch, and yet we're going way at the extreme ends of the existing cultures. What happens through all the existing problems of the existing culture, right? Like all these law enforcement videos you're watching. You're watching the results of a bad healthcare system, a bad judicial system, a defense budget which spends 70% of GDP on weapons instead of putting it back to the people. Like all these videos are the results of that, right?
Yeah. I mean,
so
I don't necessarily agree with the claims of bad this system or that system, but I agree that I agree with what you're saying about as far as where we're starting.
Yeah, so it's like you've dedicated yourself to create this great new dish, this great new cuisine, and you're using instead of actually starting from scratch, you're using this traditional recipe, and you're just changing the garnish. Like you're saying, well, this garnish I would choose this garnish I'd choose that, and you're not really going to the start of it, which is saying, okay, salt, pepper, what is it? Is it going to be umami? Is it going to be sweet? Is it going to be right? So I think we need to go way, way back. Like I think this is all gilding the lily at the very extreme ends of the existing culture, and we need to go way down to the roots of what is this new culture going to be philosophically. Is it going to be a representative democracy? Is it going to be a centralized government? Is it going to be direct democracy? Like these things are direct participation instead of representative participation. Like these things would influence everything you're discussing on the fringes, because it would be the core part of the society, right? So that's where I want to focus. I think we're talking about the garnish and we haven't even made the meal.
For sure. Okay, so what I'll say to that is my intention is to have. So right now I have a section on the website that just says current laws, and it's all the things I've talked about in the first 2 episodes. And then I want to have a section that will say Constitution, which would be what I would want the Constitution of this desirable society I live in to look like. And so even though it's called If I Were King, I don't want there to be kings. I wouldn't want to be that king necessarily. And my intentions for that Constitution, showing what the government should look like and whatnot, would be to take the U.S. Constitution, which from what I know about constitutions and countries and societies, is I feel better about what I know about the U.S. Constitution than any other constitution or potential way of living that I've ever heard. So what I want to do is take the U.S. Constitution and basically adjust it to exactly what I would keep and what I would do away with. And then I would want to discuss with others to like little details, like if somebody might say, oh, it'd be better to have 20 Supreme Court justices, or somebody else might say, no, it'd be better to have 5. And then I could hear arguments and be swayed either way. But for the most part, I don't have a strong thought on being against anything in the current U.S. Constitution that I can think of. So that's kind of where I'm basing my starting point.
But okay, I mean, the founders of the U.S. Constitution based their starting points on European, republics, right? So
Yeah.
I mean,
there would be adjustments, like so in the elements like looking through the amendments. The Third Amendment, which talks about like housing military officers is based on the idea of there being constant wars in the U.S.
Right.
And so like I probably likely would just completely leave that out. Maybe. And so, yeah, I agree with you that the time it was written, it was based on a certain situation. But I want to see if there's anything worth taking out now, even when we're nowhere near that situation. Do you
but
have?
why shoehorn yourself into a constitutional republic? I mean, it's like you've been given the entire exercise, as far as I understand it, is that you're given this opportunity to be the king, be the decider, be the architect of this grand new culture.
Yeah.
Like, why? It's so boring to just go with the existing culture and just trim the edges of it. Like, what? Hold on. Let me say.
Yeah.
So why would, in my ideal culture, like, it would be? Have you heard of silviculture?
No.
So silviculture it's kind of a Native American practice where they would integrate their agriculture into the existing wildlands. And again, this isn't like the noble savage thing where I'm trying to put them on a pedestal, but this is just an interesting thing some of the tribes would do, is where they would integrate their food and their necessities into the existing wild culture, right? The existing wildlands. And so the silva culture means, silva is Latin for forest or tree. And so when you silviculture, it's a difference between agriculture, which is like putting things in blocks, clear cutting the block, destroying everything, and then planting. Whereas silviculture you're not clear cutting anything. You're just integrating the things that will grow within the wilds as they are, and then you put that along your route from the winter camp to the summer camp, and then you have this great food source that integrates with the existing environment instead of destroying it, right? So that's just my point. Is like, if I were king, I would develop a silviculture, a narco-syndicalist, local intergenerational community that would be awesome, and and it would be exciting, and it would be fun, and you'd bring back storytellers and shamans and local artisans, and there'd be barter instead of currency, and all these things that would be amazing. Like, it would bring back life to living, and so why are you leaving all that? You're jumping over all that potentiality. And of course there's problems with that kind of culture, and of course there's issues that we could talk about, but just the potentiality of exploring that, right? We're just jumping right over that into, should this cop have shot this guy in the head or not?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different routes to go. For one, my main focus is doing this thing that I find interesting and putting down things that I think might be important onto the website, and then having people counter that if they want to convince me, because I like being challenged. So there's that. There is a sliver in me that wants to make something more entertaining, or as entertaining as possible. And so instead of there being an episode where I just read through the Constitution and adjust that, or try to create one on my own, I want to think of like what somebody else might be interested in watching, as long as it still fits the category. Now, part of why I wouldn't want to just create one on my own is because I think it's good to look through history and see all these different things that have been done, and find out like, what's better? Is this better than this, better than this? I'm not a religious person, so I wouldn't think that some idea of taking the Bible or the Quran and making a society based on that as a good thing. So that's out. When I can see what's happened in various countries and ways of being that have like a democratic way or a republic versus just having a monarch, I can go, okay, I don't like the monarch or whatever. And so, sure, I could start from scratch, which is kind of what I'm doing, which is, I'm ongoing writing a book about starting from scratch, and I can have these loose ideas. But anything I could imagine putting together would be a unintelligent version of what would be working towards creating the U.S. Constitution. Now, I haven't researched a crazy amount on this topic, so I could be easily convinced to change ideas, but I just don't think I'm going to come up with anything that I would even approve of anywhere near as much as I might approve of something like the Constitution.
Right. But
I could be today. You could do it.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think we're skipping over all these ancient legal systems and ancient forms of community development. And on top of everything, my last talk with you was about Lindy, right? Which is the LINDY concept put to diet, where the longer a thing's been done, the better it probably is.
Yeah.
So in the same way,
That's exactly how I feel. That's why my stance is on the Constitution.
Okay, well, I got one better for you then. So,
Okay, I'm ready.
So you're talking about 200 years, 250 years of doing things. How about a billion? How about 100 million years of being a small, localized simian group operating in a valley, right? That preceded the Constitution by 100x, 1000x, right? That we've been doing that for a long, long, long time, where it's a social group, and the social group self-polices. They have a storyteller, they have a healer, they have all these things in the local community. There's no representative government. There's no law enforced from an external party upon the local group, right? The local group is self-policing, and they work attuned to their environment, and that mixture of the social group plus the environmental pressures creates a working social system.
Yeah.
And so that has been done much, much, much longer than any form of legal and societal system.
Oh, there are things that have been done longer than other things for sure. I mean, having monarchs has happened longer than having presidents. And so longer isn't necessarily good, but longer and good is good. But one thing I will say is I would want all the things that I've put down so far on my website and talked about in here. In the case you're talking about, if I lived in a society, like a group of 1,000 people or 1,000, 1,000,000, 500, whatever the number is, a small group in a small area, like the size of, I live in Salem, Oregon. So the size of Salem, Oregon. I would want exactly the laws I put in place to affect that same small group. So deciding what kind of government there should be largely would be based on a couple different factors. How big the area is, how many people there are, and if you're deciding things for like foreign affairs and imagining there being like wars and such. And so a benefit to having a larger society, a larger country with a larger government would be something like being able to not fear a situation like we have with like Russia, Ukraine right now, or Israel, Palestine. And I don't want to get into those details, but just that could be a benefit.
I barely know about them anyway.
Okay, but that could be a benefit of having a larger society. But if I wanted to view this project in a way where I'm ignoring the idea of war, if war is completely out, and so anything I'm talking about is either how a society would run if there was 1,000 people and we're ignoring outsiders, or how a society would run if there was 330 million people like there are in the U.S. and we're ignoring outsiders, then I could work from that premise, and either one's fine. My answers would still be the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, there has to be a shade of both, right? I think you need and both can operate in the same system, right? You can have like I in one of the comments of one of your previous videos on the If I Were King, I commented that if I were king, I would educate every community in how to be self-sustaining. I would use all the GDP to plant food forests and like livable, intergenerational food sources in every climate that could take it. And then I would dissolve the government. Right? Because then you would teach each group to be self-sustainable. They would have food, they would have an intergenerational local group. And yeah, I mean, of course, you could say there's all kinds of problems that come from that. Like, what if there's a foreign party that invades the country? Then it's just like easy pickings for a foreign government to take over the entire continent. There's all kinds of things. But I think you can have both. I think you can develop a local group which is more aligned to the ancient, like pre-ancient simian just social groups where, it's a community of intergenerational living. the community raises all the kids. There's just imagine like a simian pack, right?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
kind of
let me pause you real quick because I agree with a lot of the moral ideas you might be referring to, which is why none of those would come up. So if I were king, it's not what moral stance is like. Would I want people to let their baby cry it out, or would I want people to have kids with an upbringing of having like a certain amount of people taking care of it, or is it better to give kids alone time to learn from various different things, like psychological things? That would be interesting too. But mine's the project's more of like a legal thing. So the society you're talking about, if you just have this great society you're talking about, what happens when somebody murders somebody, or what happens when somebody stabs somebody, or whatever?
Well, again, it's so hard to compare and contrast because we're using it's the bias of our existing culture, right? Like if we imagine a culture that you grew up with first of all, you grew up with everybody, right? Everyone in the community, you know them intimately. You've grown up with them since they were toddlers. You've grown up with everyone knows each other from toddlers to adult. All the adults in the community know every kid, right? Because again, we're talking about a local community of like what, 10 to 100, right? So in each local area has this group of 10 to 100, which is an amount that can be comprehended by each member of that group. And so you would know it's not just a random person that would come up and stab someone, right? You would know that Dave in the culture was prone to anger, prone to aggression, because you've grown up with him your whole life, and all the adults would know he was prone to aggression. And so you could head off certain behaviors. You could before someone came to a point where they would actually stab someone, perhaps you could reach out to them. You would know them. You would know them enough intimately to interface with them before it became violent, right? So when you say, what if someone stabs someone, you're presuming a stranger, you're presuming, a violent act from just that happens out of nowhere. But if you're in this local community where you know everybody, that's much less likely to happen.
Yeah. So if you break it down to a community of 100 people, then potentially I agree with you. Now, if I were to look at my closest 100 people to me and imagine that being a community I had, I could still see there being some people to be mildly afraid of, some people that could like lose it and do something. But for the most part, I think I mostly agree with you. And that would be how you would approach a community of 100 people. And then you would have that separate idea of the war type aspect of the smaller your group is, the more likely you are to have to think of, like, I mean, imagine like Native American tribes in the area that's now the U.S. I don't know how many there were, probably like hundreds, maybe thousands. And depending on if a group had 100 people or 1,000 people or whatever, another tribe could just come in and try to fight them off and all these different things. And so I think when talking about such a small group of people, it almost becomes pointless to not talk about like a military and how that kind of thing works. But it would just be its own thing. So if I was putting together, how would I deal with if I was part of a community of 100 people, then if I could say we're going to ignore all outsiders, then it would be as simple as coming up with what to do with 100 people, and it would just be its own thing. And I guess I'm just not coming from any angle like that. Like, part of what I'm doing is thinking of what an ideal society is, but another part of what I'm doing is imagining how could I perfect the current society.
So that's a different point though, right? So we need to decide whether we're doing a project from scratch truly, or if we're trying to make the current system work better.
It's both. In my mind, it must be both, because so I'm going from scratch, but I'm also, if I'm putting in something in place based on stats or something like that, I'll probably make a note of, if we were in this country at this time with these stats, then this is what I think the outcome should be doing this. But for the most part, yeah, it's from scratch, but I guess it's from scratch with the idea of living amongst a bunch of people. Now I haven't detailed how many that is or why that would be. Like, are we going to be better at innovation, better at various different things that we might love of how we live? If we have enough people, then that's how we get stores full of food. So not all of us have to be farmers and that kind of thing. But I guess that's just not a route I'm going. I'm just imagining it. The number doesn't matter. It could be 1,000 people. It could be 10 million people. But it's what would I want to exist? So like aside from something small like 50 or 100 people, anything that gets to the level of like 1,000 people to where I don't have a personal connection with all of them, I would want there to be laws. And if there were laws, I would want there to be law enforcement. This doesn't necessarily dictate what the government should look like, but I would think there would have to be some kind of a government, even if every person was part of that government somehow, like a total and complete democracy. But there would have to be laws, and I don't think a total and complete democracy would be the best route, but there'd have to be laws, and there'd have to be law enforcement, because if somebody were to do something illegal, I would want there to be people that would be their profession is to stop that crime from happening or prevent it or be part of the deterrence of it, and have a place for people that shouldn't be in the society to be put away. So prison or jail.
So I guess, I mean, but do we agree that that force in the 850 to 100 people culture would be in that culture? Like that force would be part of that community. Like if there's a bad actor within the community itself would deal with that.
I wouldn't want to live in that community, I don't think.
Isn't it like perfect personal responsibility, like societal responsibility to deal with your own bad actor?
Well, maybe you can convince me of that, but so like I would want there to be like set laws so I could know like if there are any things I want to do that are illegal, I can let's say that we could have the option to be in a society or leave to another one. Now, in our current
By the way, in our current age, are you aware that it's illegal for a state, and I'm not like a secessionist, but like in the current situation, it is illegal for a state to secede from this union.
What exactly does that mean? Like to declare that they're their own country?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Post Civil War, I believe, is a Supreme Court case that said that thou shalt not. Right?
Thou shalt not.
So
Gotcha.
you in this culture, in this constitutional republic that you're saying is the ideal, you can't leave.
No, that's fine. Well, the individual can't leave, or an individual state can't declare separation from the country.
That's an interesting point. I think certainly a state can't, but I think there are routes for an individual to declare themselves like a non-statist or something. But I think it's practically impossible.
Sovereign citizen or whatever.
Boy, I wouldn't even go down that road.
Yeah. I was hearing about that yesterday, and I don't know much about it. But no, so now all land is
sovereign
taken
citizen
up.
makes no sense because you can't be sovereign and a citizen.
Right? Yeah. But all land is taken up. So it's not as simple as you can just say, oh, I don't want to live in this country, I'm going to go to another. But if we're talking about starting from scratch, the whole world is like for humans. Let's just imagine every piece of land is just like it is for wild animals. Nobody has developed a society at all. So for me, the starting from scratch is creating this society that would be worth living in. What I'm calling worth living in, and others can live in it if they want. Now, let's say I'm declaring that it's the size of the U.S. is currently now, but and I'm going to make this land what it is. I'm the king of this land or whatever, and then all the other land is wild. So anybody that doesn't want to live in this land could just go off to live in the wild. And now I would argue that to me, living in this land would be better than living in the wild, and I would guess most people would agree with it. But I would rather live. I wouldn't want to live in a land of 50 to 100 people where there is no set law that I can know what's right and wrong in the outcome of that situation. I wouldn't want it to be where at the whim of, like, you could say that all the people are going to decide together, but then if somebody convinces all the people to let that person be king, and then that person convinces all of them that the future kings will be their firstborn sons, then anybody can convince all these different things. I would want to work towards having something in place that has set laws that are decided by.
But come on, Carson. You realize that you're living in a culture where there's so many laws that there's no capacity to understand even what you're breaking or like I think everyone probably breaks several laws and they don't even realize it a day.
Yeah, no, I think it's complicated because there are little details of laws, and I think it's important to recognize what's reasonable for somebody to know or not know as far as a broken law.
I think social law is more like the law that you like. Again, if we're talking about a small like intergenerational group that you grew up with from toddler to adult, like the social dynamics, the social laws. Like it's not like a surprise. There's no surprises about you shouldn't do this, you should do that.
It's not necessarily one or the other.
You imprinted it, right? You imprinted the social environmental ambiance. Whereas in a constitutional republic that we're in now, laws can be developed this year that affect you deeply, right?
Yeah.
And you had no idea about it until you couldn't have had an idea about it.
Well, yeah, I don't know what the right answer is for the best approach of getting people to know.
No, but my point is that if your critique is that you don't want to be surprised by a law, the small intergenerational group has much less surprise than a modern constitutional democracy where a law can be developed and often is developed this year, which deeply affects you next year that you couldn't have known about 2 years ago.
Yeah, so it's not just that I don't want to be surprised by a law. I don't want it to be this ever-changing thing that could be changed just by an individual or a whim or whatever.
Aren't we in that?
Correct. We are in it where we have, from my understanding, we have it set up where it wouldn't be just the whims of the majority that are feeling like we want to burn witches today.
That's democracy, baby.
Exactly. Democracy is no good. I'm saying no democracy.
Put that on a shirt.
Yes, no democracy. But yeah, so I think it's important to have like to me it makes sense. Now, should each state have 2 senators? Is that better than having 1 or 3? I don't know. There's wiggle room to figure out these different things.
Okay, here's a random point. Sorry, and I'm sorry to cut you off again, but
You're fine.
You like being challenged, so here I am.
Yes.
But yeah, so this is a point I brought up about, you talk about senators and congressmen. I love this point, and this is just a random thought that came to me a while ago, that anyone with any authority over people, whether it's shaman, whether it's congressman, whether it's president, should not be out of sight of those people, right? They should have daily contact as much as possible. Like maybe they can go on some senatorial visit for a week, but they should live and see the people they have authority over every day. Because that, and I think there's vestiges of that being the best way to go in laws like that. Congressmen have to be a resident of their state for like 2 years before they can become a congressman, right?
Yeah.
The implication is that you should be living and breathing and interacting with the people that you're representing. But I want to take that much further and take it much more ancient, where the shaman of the village interacted with the village. He was part of the village. He was like, he wasn't distant. Because I really think when you add distance to authority, I think that's where chicanery, that's where oppression, that's where not caring about the results of decisions you make as that authority, that's where they blossom. Because you don't care. You're out in DC or whatever, 100 miles away, 1,000 miles away from the people you're affecting. What do you care? Then suddenly you say, okay, I will make that deal to give my village less grain if you give me this thing I want, right? Suddenly, because you don't see the starvation, you don't see the angst. So I think if I was building a constitution, I would say that any authority must live and breathe and be with those they have authority over.
Yeah, any's kind of tricky, but some might. So let me lay out the vague idea of my understanding of the current constitution.
Sure.
And then we can talk about how that could be slightly adjusted. Okay, so you have 3 elements of the government. You have the president, you have Congress, and then you have judicial. So you got the Supreme Court that's going to, well, I'm going backwards. Shouldn't go out of order. So basically, we have senators. We have 2 per state, so there's a total of 100. And then we have members of the House. So these are representatives that represent different districts. And I think we have a total of like 435. Now, these will be based on how many people per area. And then and so looking at these different things, having a constitution, and then when there are legal issues that people are unsure about, the Supreme Court will decide, does that fit the Constitution? The Congress can decide if they want to amend the Constitution. All of these things seem perfectly fine to me. The detail of how we adjust it seems worth looking at. So it sounds to me like what you're referring to is that the members of the House of Representatives should be a larger number based on the population. So instead of having 435, which represents more than senators represent of their states, that maybe for every 100 people or 500 people, there should be a representative. And so I can't do the math right now, but having over 300 million people in the U.S., we're going to have a lot more than 435 representatives. So is that what you're arguing for, that if the U.S. Constitution as it is what I put on my website and I'm calling that my Constitution, your argument is that I should expand how many members of the House I have?
Yeah, and I like this because we're kind of tying together the two strands here. So I think that this is something that could work, right? You can still have your 50 to 100 intergenerational local, hippied out anarcho-syndicalist commune groups, and you have them spread throughout the country, right? And there's thousands of them, tens of thousands of them. And each leader of each group, if we have leaders, then does have some say. And again, you say that's a lot of people. If it's direct government, then it would be 1-to-1, right? It'd be 300 million people that were the representatives, right? So this is another point to debate. Like, do we have direct government where it's each person is the voter, which is kind of democratic, or do we indeed have like one leader, one voter from each little 50 to 100 group? So let's proceed with the latter, right? Let's say there is one leader chosen out of the 50 to 100 little groups, and each leader, I would say, must live with that group, right? And so then you can break down, and so it achieves the same point, right? So the representative of the 50 to 100 person group lives and breathes with that 100 people, and then they cast a vote, which is directly tied into the needs and considerations of that 50 to 100 group, that local group. So yeah, there would be, and maybe it's telecom, maybe it's not physical location, maybe it's just some, vote by mail, vote by, computer, some vast, 10,000 person forum that's online, that where each of those leaders of each of those 50 to 100 groups is in that live stream or whatever, and they all talk and vote, etc. And then that's how it's done. But the point is, like, I don't like the current situation now where the Congress people, the senators, et cetera, are so separated from their communities. They don't go to the same stores. They don't they don't see the same things. They don't play hockey. All these things that they don't do. They have bodyguards in DC, and they never see the average person. But that's why I think a main problem with representative government is that huge gulf between the local community and the where the representative is and how he operates. So I think that solves a lot of issues if we set that up, where the honcho of the small community that is living in the small community is the voting member, which then develops certain things like international trade, defense, all these things.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that. Now, the first complication that comes to mind is that it's a paid position. So right now we have 435 representatives, and if we had representatives for every 100 people, I mean, that's talking about millions of people that are either going to be representatives for free or they're going to be paid to. So it makes it a little more complicated. But we could talk about it either direction. We can say, hypothetically, in a world where money isn't needed anymore due to advancements, what would we want this to look like, and then it could be representatives that do it voluntarily because they want to be the representative and they're voted in. And then separately, we can talk about if there is money involved, how much is reasonable to tax people to pay these extra representatives we have. So one angle we might need to look at as well would be if we want to give more control to the states instead of the country on a whole. Like, would other countries be better off having states as well? And if we just have this overall country rules where the country, like the central government, is for military and some laws that can't have wiggle room, like one state can't say, oh, it's perfectly fine to murder people. The government can say, we have a few things within the Constitution that you can't go against, but outside of that, every state can have their own rules and laws. I think this might be a good approach to go by, which might be what was originally intended in the Constitution, and then that way you don't have to worry about having all these like million representatives all having to go to DC and fit into a room or whatever, because that's a problem they have now, where all the West Coast representatives have to go to DC and maybe live half the year there. They probably spend a lot of time there, so they're away from their the citizens that they should be living
another
around.
point, it's much harder to bribe 10,000 representatives than it is 3, right? Or to influence, right? It'd be much more difficult, especially when the representative is ensconced in their own little community, and so their life and their daily life is with these people, right? So the bribe that a Pfizer might do to try and influence you is going to have little effect on you because you're 1,000 miles away in your local community. Like the kid, you know,
and
like
a bribery
raising
within your community would actually probably just be acceptable.
Maybe
more acceptable than not. You know, like I mean, it would be at least it would be a demand of one of a minimal number in your community.
Yeah, bribery would be quaint. Right? Like that'd be nice to get bribery back to being quaint, but instead it's like demonic. Instead it affects millions of people, you know, as it is now. So I think I like this idea of, and I've never really thought of it before, of like stack. It's like, you remember like FDR tried court stacking in the 30s, I think, where he wanted to stack the Supreme Court. So this is representative stacking, where we're stacking the representatives to 100 instead of 20 million, right? And yeah, there are going to be complications, of course, where, you know, like you say, I mean, it's a lot of freaking representatives, but at the same time, if they're living in their communities, they're going to be that's going to be their heart and soul, and that's going to be where their interest lies, and where what their votes try to support is their local community. And so I think that would be beneficial, and I think that would make for like a truly beneficent sort of representative government.
Yeah, definitely. Here's the thing, though. I got to hop off here. But what I want to do is, because I think this talk needs to be a longer talk, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a section on the website that says Constitution. I think I'm going to take the U.S. Constitution and put it there, and then I will probably make the font a certain color. And then I will go through with a different color of me making my adjustments. And then I want to have you back on, and me and you can just spend an hour going through as much as we can. And
watch out, America. Look out, America.
See what you can convince me of to adjust for mine. And then once we adjust for mine, then all the font will just be white or whatever. But it'll be kind of fun to go through, and then and maybe we can even have another person come on that can counter your takes to try to convince me of other takes. But yeah, no, I think this could be fun. But I do have to hop off here. But I thank you for coming on, and I think we got somewhere. I like this.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I actually think it's a workable idea. You know, and you could really build a structure around that I think would actually work. So and again, it addresses your point of what about foreign invasion, what about foreign trade. So you can have, it's almost like having your narco-syndicalist commune and having your cake too, right?
Yeah. Yep. I like it. All right. Well, you take care, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Carson. Be well.
Yep. Bye.